I hate how the word woke has been hijacked and is now essentially being used as a pejorative. I actually contacted one of my conservative white colleagues and I said, do you think that there's any way for somebody to be woke and conservative? You know, I mean, getting past all of the, uh, all of the race, like race being irrelevant. To be woke and be conservative. Like, what does woke mean? Woke means that you are aware of what the fuck is going on, right? You're aware of things like, understanding power dynamics, racial politics, money, understanding how the actions and the policies of the past have implications on today, right? Right? Understanding that, everybody doesn't start at the same place. A lot of people are, fighting, person A may have started in a particular position and person B is fighting to get into that position. But also recognizing the fact that, as a rule, people who are already in a position are either trying to gain a higher position or maintain the position that they're at, usually by keeping other people out. Power dynamics are constant. It's a constant, fluid situation, and those that are more highly organized are obviously going to be more successful in the long run than those that are not. And then there's all these sorts of, empty platitudes that are thrown up. Pull yourselves up by the bootstrap. It's about hard work, personal responsibility, all religion, throw religion in there, right? All of that is designed to get, people to either A, accept their lot in life, or B, blame themselves, for all of their shortcomings. Not to say that no person has any shortcomings, like a person who procrastinates couldn't benefit from some discipline, but all that's used is to overshadow, the calls of personal responsibility and all this hard work and pull yourselves about it. All that's used to do is to get the person to blame themselves, even though, the other people that are in positions of power, especially in this capitalist society, will conspire, to make sure that those people stay there. And so being aware of that, being woke, it's not a pejorative, but it's been made a pejorative. Like example, if you were a poor white Southerner during the era of slavery, and you recognize that the very system of slavery was basically keeping you out of a job and keeping you poor as a white man, because what were you going to do? Exchange your labor for financial gain, for wages? Why do I need to hire you if I got some slaves? Right? That would be an example of a woke white person, or a woke white person today. It's like the same rhetoric that black people have been told for a long time. And I brought this up in a previous video. Pull yourselves up by the bootstraps, personal responsibility, right? Completely ignoring the context of history and critical race theory and all that. That again, nobody knows about. All the documentaries are on YouTube, and for some reason everybody, like, people talk out of their ass and they don't even know that these things went down. They don't even know what redlining is. They don't know what urban renewal, eminent domain, blockbusting, right, racial housing covenants. Oh, they never heard of it, right? But um to be a woke white person today is not all the LGBT, and there's 33 flavors of genders and everything, but to be like undead chronic. I'll say to a degree, because he gets on his shit, when talking about stuff racially. But just to be a young man and recognize, like, when you hear the boomers jump up and talk about, pull yourselves up by the bootstraps. It's like, motherfucker, when you went to college, college cost $5,000. You know what I mean? By the time people are, your average university, you know, um, let's say like a D1 university, you're talking $20,000 a semester. You know what I mean? So you got people that got, $80,000, 20,000, $100,000 of student loan debt. I know when I graduated, I had $100,000 of student loan debt for, undergraduate, but I was fortunate enough to have, parents who had already planned all that out. But, um, what was I going to say? Yeah. So, when speaking on, black people's issues, the same thing. Like white people, like there's no they're the same as the boomers. Like white people to black people are the same, or white conservatives are the same as what boomers are today to millennials and zillennials. When they're running around, acting like, my grandson or my son is lazy, because he could, why can't he just go and get a job? And it's like, what type of wages are these jobs that you're talking about getting, where I can get on my feet the way that you got on your feet at 25 or 27? You and grandma have been living in that house, since you graduated high school. You know what I mean? Or they worked for a couple of years, it took them a couple of years, but they were able to get it. He's like, that's out of reach. Like, and so to be woke is to be aware that the economics have changed, that the economics, have flipped around, even in the sexual markets. It's like, that's another area. Like when you get, it's funny how like white men can see it when we talk about the gender war and stuff like that, which, doesn't have anything to do with race. But I'm saying, when we talk about the modern woman versus, the women of the past and everything else like that, the same way that the media talks to white men is the same way that white society talks to black people. Oh, you men, you just don't want to get married because, what you need to do is, and then say some Jordan Peterson bullshit. Like, this dude's been married, since like, the 70s or whenever the hell, probably the 80s, whenever he got married. And I'm like, dude, you married like your high school sweetheart. Like, you don't know anything about dating. You don't know anything about the, OnlyFans. You don't know anything about the gram. Like, you don't know anything about what has changed in the market for you to speak, with such confidence about why young men are apprehensive about marriage. I mean, let's talk about no fault divorce. Let's talk about it just completely ignores the reality. And it's what society is like so detached from. And so, again, when we get to the racial issue, all of a sudden white men can't see it. They're blind. Oh, we can't see racism. It doesn't exist. Oh, you black people are crying. Blah, 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 blah. But then as soon as you get into the that's real. Oh, a bitch coming through and taking you for all your money in the court systems. Oh, that's real, right? How long have men been trying to get white people to see the realities of modern day racism today, or how even the past implicates today, is the same as what men have been doing over the last, 15 years that I've been online, of trying to get people to acknowledge, the freaking court systems are lopsided. They're lopsided, as it pertains to, how men are treated in the court system. So much so that you got men out here deleting themselves who want to be fathers and who want to be in the lives of their children. Right. But what does the society do? Turns a blind eye, acts like it's not a thing, acts like it's not there. I'm just drawing parallels between what men go through, that includes white men, and what black people go through, in this system. What I mean? But, to get back to the main topic about being a woke conservative, over the years of being online, and maybe it's because the left has just become so radical, and I guess everybody should be talking about, being moderate, or what it is to be moderate, or it's cool to be moderate. Like, again, I'm trying to bring some balance to the force. I don't co-sign all that shit FD signifier is talking about, and transgender women are women, and there's 33 flavors of genders, and smash the patriarchy. That's not what I'm about. So that would put me in the conservative bin, right? But I'm also an atheist. I don't believe in all the magical bullshit. Even if you believe in a higher power, even if I believed in a higher power, to me, it's irrelevant to what's going on planet Earth. I do not believe that there's some God sitting around in the clouds that's going to change your reality or change the whole entire world around for you because you squeeze a Bible and close your eyes real tight and pray hard enough. That's not how it works.
You can't sit there and say that moves mountains and that changes everything, and then you turn around and you objectively look at the fact that, example, the corporations like those videos that I showed you, took companies overseas to manufacture products and then import them back into the United States with no tariffs, free trade agreement, right? Walmart's going up there telling the producers what they're going to sell their products to them for, and if they can't do that, well then go take a walk. The whole market, everybody's forced to go produce shit in Shenzhen, where they paying people 50 cents an hour, as opposed to paying people in the US $15 an hour or more, which would make it impossible for them to compete in the marketplace, right? That's the markets. That has nothing to do with God. Like, as I remember, I was watching that video of it. I don't know. It was some town in Pennsylvania. It's where the guy is. Who's the guy that ran for Pennsylvania? He was like the senator. Anyway, the town that he was from, Bloomfield, some shit like that. Close. I think it's like close to Pittsburgh or something like. Anyway, you know, there was a guy in the video, some documentary I was watching, and he used to work at the steel mill, and he's like talking about, he was, showed him, and they always do this. He's old, he's sitting up in the church, he's got this cane on, talking about, I have faith that God and Donald Trump are going to bring, these jobs back and whatnot. And I'm like, if the math ain't mathing for the jobs to come back and the incentives are there, I don't care how hard you squeeze that Bible, it ain't happening. It's not happening, and they can't wrap their head around it. See that? So you're not woke at that point. You're not understanding like the markets and how the world works. And this is the difference between, a lot of the magical people in the world, which unfortunately is the majority of the world. Most people are magical as fuck. And then you have the more rational people in the world. Most of these problems, all of these problems that we have are man-made problems. And the driving force for a lot of it is just simply greed, not caring about the man standing next to you, and then completely ignoring the fact that if you suck all of the oxygen out of the room, you're a rock's throw away from revolution, because eventually people will get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they will tear this motherfucker up. Why should they sit around and value it and preserve a system that does nothing to benefit them, does nothing for them? Why should they sit there and embrace that? They're not going to. I don't care how much you want to wrap shit in an American flag and talk about, what it is to be an American. And part of the problem is we have like these two Americas. We have like this white supremacist America, that wants to wrap everything. They want to go back to the 1950s and America is great and we're on top and this, that, and the third, right? And they want to blame the left for all the woke shit, which on that front I agree with a lot of it. I don't agree with the gender stuff. I don't agree with the dismantling of the home. I don't agree with the feminism and all that stuff. Whether you want to keep God or not, I'll leave that alone. I think it's a bunch of bullshit that just keeps people distracted. But if you want to inject God, fine, whatever. If that gives people, the people that I would consider idiots, they need that to give them guidance, then fuck it, so be it. I'm not even going to argue about that. Right. But then when you get to the math and you're like, OK, Mr. Conservative, OK, you want to talk about going back to the 1950s, 1960s Wonder Years model. OK, I'm with you 100%. OK, let's start talking about jobs and paying people. Oh, no. Oh, trickle down economics. Oh, no. Oh no, like and these are, and what kills me is these are white men that are fucking poor. Just like I told you, that freaking 19-year-old Marine that's all pissed off because of what do you call it? He's got to compete with chicks that are the same age as him on Instagram, on OnlyFans or whatever, making all type of stupid money, and he's literally questioning his existence of why am I fucking going out here, possibly sacrificing my life, being maimed, having a face full of third-degree burns, lose a limb, lose a leg, be scarred, be on disability for the rest of my life. For what? For what? What am I doing this for? I need to be in the private sector, making money, especially as a white male. You know what I mean? But he, again, chances are his parents didn't do the right thing, because that's who you see in the military. That's who you see joining the Marines and the Army and shit. Poor white boys that whose parents, literally didn't do much better than the stereotypes that are thrown at black people. Obviously, they didn't do much better, because otherwise their son wouldn't be in the Marines, unless you just one of these all American Captain America motherfuckers. Like most cats ain't going that route. They're like, I'm gonna go work in corporate America, da da da. But you get these baseball and apple pie white Americans that all they know, and they can't give their kids guidance. You know what I mean? The markets are changing. People are making stupid money online, with social media, and all they can say is, what you need to do is go down to the coal mine and get a job and work there until your body breaks. What you need to do is you need to go down there to Walmart and look the manager in the eye and give him a firm handshake. No resume. That's how I did it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just dumb shit. Dumb shit. Okay, the boy doesn't even have a laptop to freaking go online and sign up for some shit, because the laptop costs $1,000, and again they on some real country bumpkin blue collar shit. You know what I mean? They don't understand it. They got flip phones. They haven't updated the smartphones. Some of that has to do with the fact they don't have money. Other parts of that has to just do with the fact that they don't like any. We don't like any newfangled gadgets. You know what I mean? That type of shit. It's like, oh my god, like you don't understand. Like what you're doing is 10 times more difficult than if you just had this or had that. Like, they don't get it. They don't get how technology advances, people's quality of life. But if you got parents like that, I mean, how are you supposed to know? Like, by the time even if you're exposed to it, by the time you get out there in the real world, like you're so behind. Like, you're so behind the eighth ball of people whose parents were educated, and people whose parents, did adapt to new technology and new ways of doing things and everything. Those kids are being taught, what stock options are, when they're 14 and 15 years old. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. How to come up with their own website. They already got LLCs in their name. Shit like that. Like, and so going back to what I was saying, you get these, red-blooded white Americans, that, they always want to, go back to this former time of where, they had this strong white, identity, and homes were intact, and they had these overwhelming majority white neighborhoods, and there was, crime was low, and there was no opioid epidemic, and it's all about having the sweet twinkle of white Jesus in your eye, and that'll solve everything. But then when you get to the math of jobs, the economic opportunities, it all falls apart. It all falls apart. Mainly it's because of the racism component, because when you start talking about anything that increases the quality of life for everybody, oh, socialism. You know what I mean? Or they have this idea like, no matter what increases or makes our lives better, black people have to still stay below us. They have to still stay down there, because we won't support anything, even if it puts us in a better position. We won't support anything that puts them in a better position, because our whole self-esteem, our whole white ego is based on how much further above black people that we are as working class white people, because we know we ain't shit to the elite white people, so we got to feel better than to somebody. You know what I mean? We got to feel better to somebody. You know what I mean? I remember it was I actually have a video of him, but this guy from Kentucky. And country guy, used to tell me about how he used to go, hunting in the holler. You know what I mean? I don't even know what a holler was. But anyway, I made the joke to him. I was like, yeah, explaining like white supremacy. I was like, yeah. I was like, no matter how poor a white man is, at the end of the day, he gets to say to himself, at least I'm not a nigger. And he derives some sense of comfort from that. And he actually cracked a smile and laughed, because he knows he knew people and heard people say that don't have a pot to piss in. You know what I mean? Because to them, in their mind, being white is just, it's so much better than being all the stereotypical shit, related to black people. Even if a black person is freaking in a better position than them, that's how much it fucks their head up. to think of them, to think of being black, right? It's better to be a poor white man than to be a rich, wealthy black man, or a black man who's well off. That's how powerful, the white supremacy is. So you can't get into conversations about, can we get off the racial shit and talk about the money and economics and quality of life so that we can all go out here, purchase, decent homes and get wives and raise a family and have our wives respect us and everything. The feminism doesn't add up because, again, the women simply resent, the men that they surpass, even though they constantly talk about, surpassing men. I'm like, oh my God, yes, we want to smash the patriarchy and surpass men, and then as soon as they do, there's nobody on my level. Oh, that's why I'm single. It's like, oh my God, bitch. Like, and again, like I said, as soon as she gets to a man that's on her level, then this isn't hypergamy. I want to date up. Then as soon as she is dating a dude that's above her, then it's the oppressive patriarchy. We must do something about it. Okay, fine. I'll make you equal to him. What's wrong again? I'm not dating up. It's like I mean, you'd have to go all the way to God before she was satisfied. I'm telling you, like it wouldn't work. She's like, I want to date Jesus. Then when she's dating Jesus, I want to date God. Like it's just Jesus wouldn't be enough. So it just goes on to infinity. So again, that shit is retarded because women are fickle and they're never fucking satisfied. They're never fucking satisfied. As much as they bitch and they complain about, feminism and we women, we want to be empowered and we want to be here. And again, they prove to us every time they only want to date up. They only want to date up. They want to be your equal. Hell, some of them want to blow past you. But when they finally fucking get to that destination, they only want to date up. And I'm like, how can you date up if every time you get to a certain level, or you match the dude that was above you, you only want to go higher? Like it's retarded. It's retarded. But it's like I said, to be black and and recognize, and maybe this is just a black thing. I do see parallels between the white the current white generation and how the current white generation of elders are losing the youth, because again, they don't want to share the wealth, which is the same thing that the black people have been saying. But I'm just saying, to be a black person and to not be on the Democrat plantation, that to me, that is to, I guess being woke is kind of relative, but it's being aware of knowing what the fuck is going on and when you're being manipulated and being taken advantage of, whether it's coming from the Democrat Party or whether it's coming from the system of white supremacy. I hate white supremacy. Can't fucking stand it. Okay. And we know the history. We know what went down. We know what it was designed to do. It effectively did that, right? So there's that component as an African American, right? This is why I get irritated with the conservatives. I'm like, why are you over there licking the ass crack of conservatives like conservatives have done anything for black people? I'm with you on Democrats haven't done anything for black people, despite black people going out there and voting for them other than symbolism and lip service. But I'm saying the Republicans haven't done anything. And then they say, oh, that's because we don't vote for them. Okay, fine. I'll give you that too. But again, a lot of the rhetoric, even Clarence Thomas acknowledged it, has not been very inviting. So to assume that people are just going to go over there, just because they're upset with the Democrats, I'm like, it doesn't work like that. But I do get what you're saying. Don't think that I don't. But the anti-woke people want to convince you that the racism and Jim Crow and all this shit that happened within the 20th century, don't even have to go back to slavery, has no impact, and we should just let bygones be bygones and just ignore all that shit. No, that's not happening either. So it's like, you're black, you recognize the system of white supremacy, therefore you are totally about and support the Second Amendment, right? You recognize that due to the crippling of the black community, that it most likely, even if you were to use your gun, you wouldn't use it against the white supremacists. You would end up using that gun against Ray Ray and Pookie and the criminal element in your black community due to the system of white supremacy, right? You see how nuanced that is, right? Due to the poverty, due to being economically disadvantaged. You see, so you have that component. So you're black. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed. You can't be woke. Why? Because you support the Second Amendment. I'm like, with the history of this country, with the history of what black people have gone through in this country, why wouldn't I support the Second Amendment? Why wouldn't that be a thing? And then when you get into all the LGBT stuff, it's like here you so we've had this situation for African American men where arguably due to the fact that there's no, I could give a timeline. I could say since the end of the 1960s, COINTELPRO, the basically the destruction of black self-determination. And then you have the lack of economic opportunities. So therefore the men can't, make any moves and whatnot. And so black men are out here trying to reclaim their manhood, reclaim a patriarchy. And then, we're faced with all this out of nowhere, not just the feminism, but all the LGBT, everybody should be gay and you should accept transgender shit at the very moment that we're all having discussions and organizing and talking about, again, many of the things that we were not taught about, power, community, infrastructure. Because, if you were born in the, after the after the civil rights movement, you know what I mean? And you didn't even see like the Black Panthers and all that shit was dead by the time I was born. Whether you want to talk about being born in the 80s or the 90s, you know what I mean? You have no concept of the type of communities that many black people who are, now either dead or dying, before eminent domain and urban renewal. You have no concept of what those communities look like. You have no concept of there being a black pharmacy, corner store. You have no concept of there being a black tailors next to, that black pharmacy. You have no concept of a black grocery. Right? I seen, like those little small, narrow little supermarkets, those little mom and pop supermarkets. I have no concept of that ever being black owned. I have no concept of walking in there and seeing a black person, behind the counter. The closest thing I could possibly think of, and I've never even seen one of those, it would be like, an African restaurant where they go and they got like the long rice or some shit like that caters to a Haitian a community or an African community, which I don't even know. They probably got them in New York somewhere or something like that, a Nigerian spot or something. Other than that, I have no concept. I have no, and those are just ideas. I haven't actually physically seen those locations. Those are just, ideas and concepts. I got to go on, I got to Google this shit, to find, any a main street with black businesses on either side and shit. And usually you got to go so far back. There's goddamn horses and buggies, sitting in front of the place, next to a Model T. That's how far back you got to go to see this shit. Because 1920s, they burned black people out. And then come the 50s and the 60s, they ran highways through our communities. So by the time you get to the 70s, the 80s and the 90s, all that shit is gone. You know what I mean? All that's left is Section 8 housing and freaking, the remnants of what was supposed to be urban renewal, which they didn't even fucking finish. You know what I mean? And then they just let it fall into disrepair on top of the fact that those people didn't have, economic opportunities. And so none of that is there. Then you throw in the welfare state. It's all fucked. It's all fucked. So, at a time when black men are trying to reclaim their manhood, we got to deal with LGBT. We got to deal with, all this, feminism. We got to deal with, a no fault divorce. We got to deal with women who think that they can, change men like sneakers. and I can divorce him and I can go and have another baby by another nigga, and now I will demand, after having a child or multiple children by a dusty dude, I'm gonna demand that the dude that actually has some discipline, I demand that he come through and provide for me and my child. Like I said before, I'm like, you are not entitled to my discipline. You're not. So there's all this crap we got to work through, but it's like, again, as a black man in America, you're not allowed to call out white supremacy, call out feminism, call out all the goofy LGBT shit, be pro 2A, and how dare you, how dare you even remotely agree with some tenets on when it comes to being conservative. I personally, I get irritated at the idea that conservatives have a monopoly on structure. That the left has become so far left that they don't believe in structure. I believe in structure. So now where do I fall on the political spectrum if I believe and I support structure? Where do I fall? I don't believe in the chaos of like whatever that shit they had in Seattle, Chav, and all that other stuff, right? And see, this is and I will probably always have a resentment in the back of my mind when it comes to black women on this front, because the black feminists literally opened up the door on black grievances, being summarily dismissed because of the extreme, woke mob, that they allowed to come in the room, be it the FD signifier type, the LGBT shit, or be it the anybody that wanted to whine or complain. I'm like, we have long standing history of discrimination in this country. And now, as you see, because the black feminists want to decide with the woke, far left Democrats, that had no intention of resolving any of black people's issues, despite the fact that they're always got their hand out asking for a vote. Now all that nonsense, all the a man masquerading as a woman and wants to use a female bathroom. Now all of that has cut to the front of the line on reparations. All that has cut to the front of the line on repairing a number of things, like the effects of housing discrimination, education discrimination in terms of funding for inner city schools, getting the best teachers in there. What else? The bank loans for economic opportunities, no interest loans. I think I brought up reparations, but all of these things that need to happen in order to rectify what was done to the African American community. Now all of a sudden, all this nonsense, all this, I'm a quadruple binary, non-identifying, alien xenomorph, like all that has gone to the front. And so now when I get up on the podium and I talk about slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, eminent domain, urban renewal, convict leasing, right? And I go through the whole Christmas list of all these policies that were put in place and things that were done. Even the shit with Wells Fargo and how they had to pay, black borrowers, I think it was like $175 million for it was a class action lawsuit, shit like that, right? But somehow, and I'm saying this nation was founded on that bullshit. And somehow, somebody who decided that they were now a victimized group in 1989, comes up and thinks that they can cut the line on America's greatest sin, which is, the legacy of slavery. And I'm like, and I'm pissed off at black women. I will continue to be pissed off at black women. I'm pissed off at the way that they allowed that to happen, because it damn sure wasn't black men. We were homophobic. We focused on the community, even when black men speak on the shit, they speak on it from a standpoint of we as black people. But when it comes to black women, they speak on it from a standpoint of what about the black woman. Look no further than freaking Fox Soul and Vivica A. Fox, up there, and Claudia Jordan criticizing, Ice Cube about his contract with Black America. Go watch the clip. I don't even need to. I mean, I present Exhibit A as supporting evidence. It's right in front of us. So, I'm just throwing it out there. Like, can you be woke and be conservative? Because I think there's a lot more quote unquote woke conservatives. If we get away from using woke as a pejorative, I think there's a lot more woke black men, who recognize, the obstacles that we face, but who also recognize the responsibility of what it means to take on, what it means to take on, that task, which requires money and resources, which is why money and resources are the primary discussion, that we're having. But anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my stream of consciousness. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.
And Oklahoma is a unique space in terms of the number of African-American towns that were established. Some suggest upwards of 50 African-American towns between 1924 and 1928. Reverend S.S. Jones was going around documenting this sort of self-determined, vibrant African-American communities. You see the African-American educators, doctors, lawyers, landowners, oil barons. And I think that's what's so remarkable about this footage. To think that individuals, how many years out of slavery, are now owning oil wells that are producing 2,000 barrels a day. Is that not the ultimate American dream? Is that not the ultimate American story? It flies in the face of what I think some people consider part of African American history and culture. And I think that was one of the things that Oklahoma and what S.S. Jones is really kind of showing, is that African American history and culture is not a monolith. And in a way, it became kind of like a marketing tool to encourage individuals to migrate, to move there, that this is a place where you can live, you can thrive, and peacefully reside. There were still palpable racial tensions. There are lynchings, there's Jim Crow, segregation, there's all of these things, and you still have an African American community, or many communities, that really speak to the fortitude and resilience of Black people in this country.